Hello, and welcome to myfinanceteacher.org. I hope you guys are having a nice day, and in this video I want to talk about a range of cryptocurrencies, but a small range. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Monero. These are some of the very few cryptocurrencies that I like. Actually, if you look at coinmarketcap.com, you will see a very long list of cryptocurrencies, and personally I think 99.9% of them are not worth the time that you spend looking at them, but in my personal portfolio I only look at the ones that I think are truly decentralized. Before we jump into the cryptocurrencies, a quick reminder: these public videos on YouTube are sometimes delayed, while public up-to-date videos on YouTube are not as frequent as they are at myfinanceteacher.org. Consider joining us at myfinanceteacher.org if you want timely updates on a range of assets, including precious metals, energy, general stock market, and cryptocurrencies. Whenever I make a personal trade, I do post immediate updates on the website. In addition, I have a business partner who is regularly writing these newsletters where he shares his experience of investing over a number of decades. So check us out at myfinanceteacher.org and consider joining us. Now, looking at Bitcoin, actually in the previous video, a few days ago we published a video on a couple of cryptocurrencies expecting this 2-month cycle to start its declining phase relatively soon, and we see over the last 4 days we have a considerable decline in Bitcoin, which is 14% down from its recent highs, and it has been as low as 19% down yesterday. Looking at this period since early 2017, on average these cycles last for about 64 days, with the shortest one 46 days and the longest one 97 days. So there is some range for these cycles. The current one has been going on for 59 days, which means that yesterday's low at about 8,100 might actually be the low for the cycle. It is very conceivable for the cycle to actually last for 58 days, meaning that we are in a new cycle, and in that case we would expect a general uptrend in the price of Bitcoin. Although there is a chance for that, I don't think this chance is that high. I think we are going to continue down over the next 1 or 2 weeks to retest the 50-day moving average and possibly even reach the lower range of the Bollinger Bands. So it seems that we are not in a new cycle, but we are on the day 59 of an ongoing 2-month cycle. Looking at 14-day RSI, it hasn't even reached midpoint yet. At the moment it's at about 54. So I think a further decline in RSI should be expected before we reach a 2-month cycle low in Bitcoin. Zooming out a little bit, we see that even during this strong run in the middle of last year, when Bitcoin increased from around 3,000 all the way up to 13,000, the cycle lows were pretty close or below the 50-day moving average. The only time within this run where cycle low was above the 50-day moving average was in the beginning of June. At that time, the price was stretched by under 7% above the 50-day moving average. While yesterday at a local low, the price was still stretched over 8% above the 50-day moving average. Which means that there is a small chance, say maybe 25% chance, that we've seen the low yesterday and are going to generally trend upwards from here. I think there is a much greater chance that Bitcoin continues down over the next several days, at least, maybe for 1 or 2 weeks. Again, looking back at history of this strong run from 3,000 to 13,000, even within this cycle, which finished above the 50-day moving average, the price still came close to the lower range of the Bollinger Bands. So I think over the next 1 or 2 weeks, Bitcoin will continue to slide down, while Bollinger Bands will continue to narrow, with the lower range possibly coming close to the 50-day moving average, somewhere at about 7,500, and that would be a nice support zone for the next bounce, as that aligns well with this recent short-term high in Bitcoin in the early part of April. It's not necessarily the case that Bitcoin will bounce up from that support, but that at least is our first target for the nearest support that Bitcoin is possibly going to reach over the next 1 or 2 weeks. Next, let's have a look at a shorter-term view of Bitcoin. This is a 4-hour chart where each candle represents 4 hours. The 300-day moving average on this chart is similar to a 50-day moving average on a daily chart. So what do we see here? A significant drop several candles ago, that's 1 or 2 days ago. And more recently, Bitcoin seems to be forming this short-term symmetrical triangle. Symmetrical triangles usually have an equal chance of breaking to the up or to the downside. But as we are a little too far above the 50-day moving average, I think the chance of breaking to the downside is greater. Plus, you could argue that this is some sort of a bear flag where the price is taking a rest before continuing downwards. Now, looking at the targets for downward momentum, if we break out of this triangle, usually the height of the triangle is your first target. The height right here is somewhere around $770. So if we break down from, let's say, $8,500, a measured move of $700 would have a target of around $7,800. Similarly, if you look at Fibonacci extension numbers from the recent local high, from the top of this bear flag pole to the bottom of the pole and up to the recent high at the top of the triangle, 78% extension, which is pretty common, will be close enough to the 50-day moving average in another couple of days. So that would align well with the support zone we've mentioned. That's the 50-day moving average plus the recent high and the measured move for this short-term triangle on the 4-hour chart, all pointing somewhere into the area between 74 to 7600. So in my personal portfolios on Bitcoin, I am not shorting cryptocurrencies because I think it's a little too risky. I'm still holding my long-term hodl position, which is over 90% of my crypto holdings. And within my trading part of cryptocurrency portfolio, I'm still waiting for a nice setup for trade on the long side. Next, looking at Ethereum, a quick zoom out on the chart. It seems to me that cycles on Ethereum last for around 51 days. At least that's the data since the beginning of 2019. And on Ethereum, actually, the chart at the moment is very similar to that on Bitcoin. We're now on day 59. For an Ethereum chart, 59 days is a little bit of a long cycle already. The 14-day RSI is below 50, that's at 46.6. And yesterday, price came close to the lower range of the Bollinger Bands, as well as close enough to the 250-day moving averages. So I don't think we are going to see another 1 or 2 weeks of a drop in Ethereum. Possibly another few days down, maybe poke through the lower range of the Bollinger Bands a couple of times before the next cycle starts. In my personal portfolio, I'm still waiting for a nice trading setup. And lastly, let's have a look at Manero. Manero versus US dollar, a relatively similar situation. The cycles since late 2018 seem to be lasting for around 50 days. Again, the current cycle has been going on for 59 days, so this cycle is getting a little bit old, a little bit mature. We've seen a poke through the lower range of the Bollinger Bands yesterday, a poke through the 50-day moving average, so we're coming relatively close to the end of the cycle. And RSI is under 50, it's at 48.6, so although we might not see another 1 or 2 weeks of a drop in Manero, we might still see several days of a drift down before the new cycle starts. The nearest support zone for a bounce would be the zone that connects this recent high at the end of March with this recent low in the middle of April, and that's somewhere at about $51. That's for Manero versus US dollar. I also like to look at Manero versus Bitcoin because it's a little bit hard to see a place where you can trade Manero versus US dollar. Personally, I do trade Manero versus Bitcoin on Poloniex. On Manero versus Bitcoin, looking back into late 2017, it seems to me that these cycles last for around 59 days. And it seems to me that each of them closed below the 50-day moving average, whereas the top comes strictly above the 50-day moving average, no exceptions. Zooming into what's going on right now, over the last 5 days, we see a nice bounce up in Manero versus Bitcoin. Our 14-day RSI has been deep into oversold territory, and we've poked many times through the lower range of the Bollinger Bands. The prices are both below 50 and 200-day moving averages. With all of these cycles over the last couple of years closing above the 50-day moving average, I think there might be an interesting potential in trade on Monero versus Bitcoin, as the 50-day moving average at the moment is 10% above current price. So in my personal portfolio, I do have a trade open right now, which is long Monero versus Bitcoin. At the video description, I'm going to give you a referral link to Poloniex, and if you sign up with Poloniex using that referral link, you'll get 10% back from your trading fees. In general though, if you want to get timely updates on a range of assets, join us at myfinancesteacher.org, where I post nearly every day. New material here comes up at least 5 times per week. And a lot of the material that is published publicly on YouTube is significantly delayed compared to the timely posts at myfinancesteacher.org. Once you join us, or if you are a member already, I'm going to send you a confirmation email or a new post alert so that you are notified when a new post appears at myfinancesteacher.org so that you don't have to actively check for new posts all the time. So there you go. That's my view for a handful of truly decentralized cryptocurrencies. Let me know what other cryptocurrencies you deem to be truly decentralized. For now, I wish you a nice day and good luck in your trades.